following program on Advocacy 24 is classified for general audience. It is intended for all ages. It contains little or no violence, no strong language, and little or no sexual dialogue or situations.
Tonight, we discuss the nuances of the new draft constitution of Sri Lanka. What changes have been made to the currently existing constitution? And what do these changes spell out for the future of Sri Lankan legislature? A very good evening and welcome to yet another episode of Law, Land and Liberty, where we break down key legal concepts and updating legal fields for the layman. Now, today's topic is something that is unfolding in real time as we speak, something that has not been concretely set, but the developments seem to be going along pretty swiftly, and that would be on the new draft constitution that has been presented. Now, this is not a topic that can be approached lightly because it ideally affects the character of Sri Lankan legislature and the future of Sri Lankan legislature as we know it. And to speak about this, I believe we have someone that is one of the most experienced in this field, and that is Attorney at Law, Mr. Krishantha Nisanka. Thank you very much, sir, for being on the show once again. You're not a new face. Thanks again, sir, for taking the time to speak to us today. Attorney at Law Krishantha Nisanka is also the convener for lawyers for Buddhist rights as well. So there is a little bit of a focus on the specific articles that are being affected by the new draft. Now, before we get into the topic at hand, the discussion, let me give you a little bit of a breakdown of how exactly we're going to approach this topic. First, we'll be talking about the basics, of course, what changes have been implemented, what changes have been proposed in the new draft, and how that could relate into current legislature. And next, we'll be talking about the current context, how the new compares to the old, the currently existing constitution versus the new draft. And finally, we'll be talking about what this could mean for the future of Sri Lankan legislature.
Hi, my name is Imam Razak and I am an engineering student. My question is about draft constitution. What are the key features of the proposed draft constitution?
Well, let's, without any further ado, let's get right into the discussion. Sir, thank you once again for taking the time to enlighten our viewers. It's a very hot topic right now. There's a lot of discussion around it, and I'm sure with the noise around it, it's very hard to get credible information as well regarding what changes are being proposed, especially when it comes to such a heavy document such as the Constitution. The layman would not quite possibly be able to accurately break it down as well. So we might not see things that is visible to the discerning eye. So before we start off with any of the specifics, could you please give us a little bit of a context into requiring the drafting of a new constitution? Why exactly has this topic been approached in the first place, sir?
That is also a big question, because when you look at the documents they have produced before the people, now this particular symposium which was arranged very recently in the Foundation Institute, they did not produce the original draft to the people. So that itself is a big problem, because when they propose a bill, the first thing is that when you are called to discuss, have a symposium, you should have the original document with us. So that was not there. Instead, they had an executive summary. You will see, this was in Sinhala. The one which I received was in Sinhala. I hope most of the people got this in Sinhala, but it was not the proposed draft bill. In the document, it says that it is the draft bill. On the cover of the document, it says Nava Vyavastha Ketumpata. But when you go for the second page, it says it's not the Nava Vyavastha, it's not the new draft. It is a executive summary, they say. So this is questionable, because without seeing the draft, people had to discuss this matter with this particular committee, and this document did not give the exact feeling that it was the draft. So what I feel is, at the very beginning, this has become a problem because people are not in a position to see what exactly the draft is. So that is the basic question. Then secondly, at the very end of the program, they said, well, you have to go through the All Ceylon Buddhist Congress website. And that also happened when we asked, what is the exact document which you are going to discuss? Then said, they hope that we have gone through the ACBC, which we did not know. ACBC website document. So within the discussion, the panel was telling us that there were certain documents moved around, but those were not the originals, according to them. So I showed a particular document and asked them whether this is the document. They said they are not aware of. So from the very beginning, the purpose of drafting a constitution and presenting it to the masses should have a transparent, it should be transparent, and it was not so. So that itself is a question. Then secondly, the one which they were referring to, which was in the website, it was not in Sinhala. We came to know that it was in English at the very end of the program. What do you mean of having a constitution if the majority of the people in the country is not in a position to access it? It is the people who should make the constitution, not the lawyers. The lawyers can peruse through it and see whether you get viable suggestions in it. Instead, throughout this document, what I see is that it is the ideas of this particular experts being put into the document. So this is not the way a constitution should be done.
Does that mean, sir, that the entire foundation that the new draft of the constitution lies upon is not democratic whatsoever?
Exactly. And now they say that this document was prepared in somewhere in 2019, and now things have changed. People came out with the Aragale, then there were so many changes in the system. Now, none of these things have been taken into consideration. What I see is they have done some shuffling of the old constitution, changed the numbers and presented it to the people. Instead, we should have had a discussion. The other thing is, 2019, 2020 was the COVID era. How can the masses move about and discuss things in such a scenario? So that was not the appropriate, this is not the appropriate time to make a constitution, because the economic situation of the country, then the anarchy, the president was put off his seat, and this type of an environment is not conducive to have a constitution. So the committee should take those facts also into consideration, whether the people are ready for a constitution, and whether though this election manifesto said that they would go for a constitution, do they have the mandate? When the people was against their governance, right? People didn't want to have Mr. Gotabaya in the seat. So in such a scenario, a committee appointed by him to continue with, and now there is a new president. We can understand if Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe would had asked for a new constitution. So these are problems.
I see. Well, there is a lot for us to discuss. I feel like that would be a good premise into the rest of our discussion, considering the specific changes made proposed in the new draft constitution. But before we discuss any of the new changes that have been proposed by this draft, let's take a very short commercial break. You're watching Law, Land and Liberty. Stay with us.
Hello, my name is Nikini Shaki and I'm a law student. My question is on the current context. How do the two documents compare in legislative terms?
Welcome back to Law, Land and Liberty. We were in conversation with Attorney at Law Krishantha Nisanka, the convener for Lawyers for Buddhist Rights. Now, sir, in the previous segment, we spoke about the very basics of if there was, why there is an introduction of a new draft and if it was necessary in the first place, considering the fact that it's not conducive in the current environment that we're in, and of course the democratic aspect of this new draft that we have been seeing circulated by the committee. So if you could, now we saw you mentioned it a little bit in the previous segment as well regarding the language issue. Could you please explain to us, sir, now considering the fact that Sri Lankan citizens first and foremost, the majority of them are Sinhala speaking first and foremost, but the draft was in fact not implemented or not circulated at first or released in the Sinhala language, but rather in the English language. Is there a logical reasoning behind this decision that has been made, or is there some sort of issue at hand?
Yes, law is nothing but language. So, what is expressed, the will of the people is expressed in language. Now, we were made to understand that some 800 people have made suggestions. Most probably, these would have been either in Sinhala or in Tamil. So, they didn't produce a Tamil document or a Sinhala document. So then whose constitution is this? What I feel is that this committee doesn't have the locus standi to present this, because there should be evidence that they went through these people and this is what the people said, and they have summarized these facts into one particular piece of sheet of paper, and now what they say is this is an executive summary. It is not the people's executive. It is they who have suggested many of these things. I came across this document where it says in most pages you get a name called A. Sarveswaran, Professor Sarveswaran. His opinions are being highlighted throughout. So, what is the purpose of having a single person's names written on the executive summary even? So that is one thing. The locus standi for the committee to proceed on this matter, and we find it difficult to understand why they took this position, not to present this document before they discussed it with the people. Right? They should have come out with the first. Then the excuse they gave was that they didn't have enough money to produce this. So then I came to know that this was not a government appointed committee. If it was a government appointed committee, the government should have made available resources for them to print it, and that is why they have not done it. So this is a team, non-NGO, non-governmental organization who has produced this draft. But at the very beginning they say that this was, this particular cabinet has appointed this specialized committee to make this draft. So that means, though the cabinet has appointed these people, they have not paid anything. They have not made the available resources for them to even to print it and distribute it among the people. And the other thing is, Anuradhi, now they could have easily published it in the instead of printing. Now you need not print things, no, because now we have this WhatsApp, internet, and all these social media is there. Had they distributed it in the social media beforehand, and people could have seen it, watched it, and they could have studied it, and that is, it's a must when it comes to a constitution, that it should be in the language of the people, that is either in Sinhala and Tamil, which was not. So now I will give you a small example to that effect. That is, there is a very famous story about Saradiyal. He was, his judgment was written in Privy Council. The order was given by the British judiciary, and I don't know whether this is we came to know it as a story, I mean historical story, where it says, kill him not, save him. That was the order. Kill him not, and there was a comma after kill him not and save him. So people say that they have changed the comma and put it in front of kill him, not save him. So changing a comma changes the whole meaning of a sentence. So even a comma has a big role in a constitution. Whereas when this particular thing, when we don't know what the constitution is, only a summary is given, not the exact article, then how can people discuss these matters? So I don't think this is a document which has been properly prepared for the people to peruse through. And now only we have now we have come across a particular document which has been published in the All Ceylon Buddhist Congress website, and that is not enough. People, the whole country doesn't know how to use a website and go through the document. It should be printed and it should be published in the papers. So the first thing is whether this particular committee has the locus standi to produce this. Then secondly, the way they have done it. Right? So these are questions that will be solved before going into detail of this draft constitution, the purported draft constitution.
Right, we can't even consider it an official draft constitution.
I don't think that this is an official draft constitution.
Of course. Now, sir, before any judgment is passed officially on this draft, so I think it's important for us, for our viewers, to understand exactly what we're going to be looking at when we consider this draft constitution. So, could you please let us know of some of the key elements of change in the new draft? What are the mentioned areas that have been most drastically changed by this draft?
Now, the draft is very specific on language issue. Because now I'm stressing so much on the language because all the developed countries, they became developed countries because of their own language. Say for Japan, say for China, Russia, then Germany, Italy, whatever the country, they have used their own language. That is, creativity is based on one's own language. So that identity comes to them, that their creativeness is a fundamental thing based on their own language. Because when you talk of those countries, the Japanese identity or the Chinese identity. Likewise, and we should have our own identity before the world. So to be that, I mean, people should think in their own terms, right? To develop this country, it is the people who knows the best, not the English speaking crowd who has received their education from some other foreign country, right? And it should be the local man. Though we speak in English, when it comes to constitutions, it should be done in their own mother tongue. It should be the mother tongue. And so the language, they have said now a particular section, I can't refer to sections even because they have not mentioned exactly the sections regarding the languages. In the document which I have received, they say that the usage of English has been recognized by the draft. I don't understand what did they mean recognized. So, in the earlier constitution, the prominence was given to the national languages, that is Sinhala and Tamil. For the very first time, they are bringing in this usage of English language. It's true that we should learn our English. There is no argument about it. Why English only? We are entering into a global village where thousands of languages have been spoken. The huge market, the Chinese market, then we should learn Chinese also. This has not recognized Chinese. Then the next door, we have the Tamil and the Hindu language market. That has not been addressed here. Right? So, the people knew only English, and that is why they have stressed so much on English. So this is...
Does that mean only English has been explicitly stated under the languages section, sir?
Yes. No, the earlier situation was, the earlier constitution has given Sinhala and Tamil a particular position. Now this has introduced English as a special language. Now, earlier it was only the English language was considered, especially the court language, because the Supreme Court, most of the Supreme Court procedures are based on English language. And for that also, the minister responsible for, say, this justice minister should get the approval from the other ministers to have this, to gazette this particular English language thing, and then only they can proceed with this. But I'm aware that even that was not done. And in that scenario, I can't see how this English thing has come to the document. Because if we are to develop, we should have our own method of developing the country. That creativeness should come from the people of the country. A foreign university, a foreign programmer cannot program the development of this country. It should come from the heart of the people, and they should suggest. I know now the problem with us is that this parliament does not allow people to proceed on this matter. So when this type of suggestion is given to the parliament, what will happen? Even the members of the parliament, when they don't understand, they don't question, things are spoken in English. And I have never seen in the parliament people asking for a singular translation. I don't think the whole parliament knows the English.
Does that mean it's inadvertently taking away agency from even referring to your own constitution?
Definitely. Definitely. So that is one big issue, with the language. Then, regarding Buddhism, now my position is that this is the only autochthonous, deep-rooted Grundnorm. This is the most autochthonous Grundnorm, or I should say only Grundnorm, only autochthonous principle of law, which is embedded in the present constitution. Now that is in Article 9. So there was huge discussion for the past 40 years, 45 years on this Article 9 thing, and there are so many judgments and determinations on Article 9. And now, suddenly, this committee, the committee proposing this draft, has taken off Article 9 from its original position, which the people are very aware of. I mean, people are very much aware of this Article 9. When you talk of Buddha Sasana, people ask, is it Article 9 that you are speaking of? So that is the recognition, that is the name of the article. Though it's a number, 9, Navaya, people ask in singular, people ask, Navaya ganata katha karanne. So that is, now this has been taken off. I mean, depositioning, taking it from 9 and placing it in under Article 10. What happens to the judgments? Then all those judgments, the unwritten law, right? It's not, judgments are not statutes. What happens to the laws which were based on Article 9? Then we'll have to have this discussion started almost anew. I mean, this is very unreasonable on the part of the people of this country. So, and was there a suggestion by the people to this particular committee to change this, drastic changes to this constitution? I mean, take off. Then Article 9 was changed, and Article 9 was referring to 2 sections, another 2 articles regarding the fundamental rights. That is Article 10 and Article 14(1)(e). Now, instead of Article 10 and 14(1)(e), they have introduced another new Article 26 and 27. That is not the same thing. So, when you change the article, the whole context is changed. So, this is a different context. So, if you go to courts and say, well, we have got this particular judgment under Article 9, then the opposing party would say, well, now there is no such Article 9, this is Article 10, then we will have to redo the matter. And although the committee says that they have not changed Article 9, they have done drastic changes by taking the thing and dumping it somewhere else. So that is not the way how it should be done.
There is quite a bit more to discuss, especially regarding Article 9 and how, while it seemingly may seem just like it's changed articles from 9 to 10, or there is some sort of jump maybe in a few pages, while that might look like what it is on the surface, I'm pretty sure that there is going to be a domino effect of some sort where it magnifies to the point where it affects legislature in a very drastic manner. But before we get into any of the contexts regarding the Article 9 issue as well, and also other prevalent issues that have been imposed due to this draft constitution, let's go in for a very short commercial break. You're watching Law, Land and Liberty.
Hi, my name is Binit Senagaratna and I am an engineering student. My question is on future possibilities. What impact might the draft constitution have on current legislature if any proposed changes are implemented?
Very good evening, and you're joining us on Law, Land and Liberty on our final segment, and we're in conversation with Attorney at Law Krishantha Nissanka, the convener for lawyers for Buddhist rights. Sir, now we've had quite, I'm pretty sure some might say, a controversial discussion regarding the draft constitution, but of course there are things that need to be said and need to be heard by the populace in order to better understand and get better consensus on this entire issue so that there is no ignorance moving forward. It greatly impacts our democracy advocacy as well. Now, sir, we were just discussing, I believe, what is one of the most important articles in the Constitution, which is Article 9, and how the draft Constitution has affected certain changes, certain reshufflings of the article, essentially claiming that there is no change to the basis of Article 9, but it has, in every sense of the word, apart from changing its key ideology, has been modified to an extent. So could you please explain and enlighten us further on that specific issue about Article 9 and how this might drastically affect Sri Lankans in the future?
Now, Article 9 has its foundation in the unwritten law of the country, which is referred to in Article 16 of the Constitution, present Constitution. Now, that means all the judgments, all the determinations have to be taken into consideration when you interpret Article 9. Now, this committee has taken off that article as well. There is a danger, this is a dangerous situation, because Article 9 is an article where you cannot touch it, I mean, right? Now, Article 16 is not that. But Article 16 is the much more important one, because the definitions on Article 9 are based on the judgments on Article 9. So that comes under the unwritten law of the country, right? Especially judgments. Now, very recently, the Supreme Court made a judgment on determination on Article 9 in this Ayurveda determination bill. Now, I should be allowed to read out a particular passage where it says that the law on this particular point is that the Supreme Court states thus, now regarding the duty mentioned in Article 9, it has given a new interpretation to Article 9, where it says, a practical example of the fulfillment of this positive duty, which is embedded in Article 9, was brought to our attention by one of the petitioners. And where it says, the Tripitaka has been declared as a national heritage. The Tripitaka is part and parcel of the Article 9, because the Article 9 emphasizes a particular word, that is Buddha Sasana, the two words, Buddha Sasana. Now, this committee has stated that Buddha Sasana is what has been described in the Buddhist Congress report, published long time ago. Actually, Buddha Sasana cannot be described by layman. Lord Buddha have described what Buddha Sasana is. That is Pariyatti, Patipatti, Pativeda Sasana. Instead of referring to that, this committee, I don't know what their knowledge on this particular subject is, instead of going to the Tripitaka interpretation on the Buddha Sasana, they have referred to something else. So that itself is wrong. Because when there is an interpretation by Buddha himself, a lay body making an interpretation to that particular section is not the proper way of doing it. And then according to this particular section, there is a positive duty, and if this particular duty is not being performed by the people, by the judiciary, by the executive, by the legislature, then they are doing a big mistake by not doing it. And they can be, the people who do that negligent act, the omission or the wrongful act can be questioned in the court of law, and that was the judgment given to us, where it says there is a negative element which requires the state to abstain from doing any act which will cause any damages or injury to the Buddha Sasana. Now the cabinet of ministers comes under the state. The judiciary comes under the state. The legislature comes under the state. So all three organs should abstain from doing any act which will cause any damage or injury to the Buddha Sasana. That is, removing this particular article from that particular the existing position and dumping it elsewhere is also a damage, right? The people's vision on it has been taken off. Then the Supreme Court goes on to say, similarly, the constitutional duty to foster the Buddha Sasana includes both positive and negative elements. What do you mean by negative element? And that also has been described. The positive element requires the state to take active steps to promote growth or encourage trend of the Buddha Sasana. The negative element requires the state to abstain from doing any act which will violate this positive duty. The committee is not aware of this fact. Actually, they have taken an oath, all lawyers take an oath before the Supreme Court to safeguard the Constitution. So they have to safeguard the Constitution. People might make suggestions against it, but their duty is to safeguard Article 9. And they are not supposed to make amendments to Article 9 in the guise of making constitutional amendments. So this is an important fact which the people of this country should take into account and be aware of, right? And they should read this article before anything happens. And I am afraid that according to things happening around the place, what I feel is, I'm afraid whether this should be taken up with the people. If the people are not given the opportunity to read it, if this document is not open to the public, right? And it has taken a long time, 2019, now this is 2023. After taking so much of time also, if there are so many technical problems with the draft constitution, it's going to be dangerous. And sometimes this might be a political program. This might be for the sake of a political program to tell people that this would be taken up on the next with the next government appointed, and they will implement it if it comes as a revolution or something like that, and that will become a big problem. So people should consider these facts and tell these drafters that enough is enough. The way you have done this is not appropriate, and they should come before the people and answer these questions. If they are prepared to argue this matter, Lawyers for Buddhist Rights is prepared to answer those questions in a face-to-face debate.
Of course, now there's very clearly quite a few lapses. That begs the question, sir, do you think there has been any sort of public involvement at all in the formation of this draft? Do you think there will be in the future? Do you have any hopes on that matter, sir?
Yes, now the people are discussing this matter because with the available documents in hand, people have started the discussion, and that is why I am interested in coming to you. I mean, the purpose is to bring this into the notice of the people. It's our duty, especially according to this law. Now, according to the penal code, there's a penal provision which says the statutory duty, if they don't perform it, if they negligently omit doing it, there is a penal liability. And if the government servants don't do this, they could be taken up, they can be charged under the civil, they can be taken to courts under the State Liability and Delict Act. Section 2 of the State Liability and Delict Act and dealt with. And so it's high time that people should consider the suggestion which I make on behalf of the Lawyers for Buddhist Rights organization, and see that this type of constitutions, drafts, should be severely dealt with.
I see. Now, sir, we don't have much time, but I believe it would be important not to, if we do not conclude without any specific remarks from you, it would be quite a disgrace to the topic in itself. Since, sir, please could you explain to us, if by any chance, now for the people watching, if by any chance this draft by some reason happens to make it all the way to the final stages and it happens to be enacted and replacing the old constitution, what could we see in the future for Sri Lankan legislature? How badly could it affect already existing legislature that's dependent and reliant on articles such as Article 9 and Article 16?
And Raja, you would have seen that people don't have faith in the parliament. Whatever put before the parliament becomes law. So this is why the people of this country is galloping towards a cyber parliament, where this particular section, Article 85(2), was taken off by the parliamentarians, 225, and it was, after a struggle, it was put back. And in Switzerland, we have a system where the people directly involve themselves in initiating laws. And this has been done for the past 150 years. And it's high time for the people of this country to rethink of having a system based on technological, we are in a technologically developed era where all of us have telephones in our hands. And we can decide, through this medium. For the past 4 years, no elections. They come up with so many excuses, no money, this and that. So it's high time for the people to take up this matter in a cyber environment and decide whether this should be adopted or not in a cyber parliament, a people's parliament, which is not this parliament of the 225.
A true democracy, one might say, because it is directly handled by the people of the country.
Exactly.
Now, sir, to finish off, I believe this is more of a question of curiosity than it is a question of national importance. If in case there is public consensus of that nature, do you believe that if this were to be circulated more accurately, more profusely towards the general public, and they actually get their hands on such a copy of the draft, do you believe inherently that the people of Sri Lanka will wholeheartedly not accept the new draft constitution?
Yes. If they see this, they will never accept this. I'm definite about it. And that is why we are going to address the people throughout the country and tell them what this exactly is, and show them all the malign inclusions in the document and tell them to be aware of, it will affect their future definitely.
All right. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have on this discussion. There may have been a few more to discuss, but unfortunately, time has run against us. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the time to enlighten our audience, our general public, regarding the current issue of the draft constitution and how this might personally affect and impact each and every one of us on an individual level. Thank you very much once again, sir, for taking the time.
You are welcome, Amrati. Thank you.
All right. Well, the Constitution of Sri Lanka is essentially the core of the nation's legal identity. It's not just a piece of legislature, but the very ideals the citizens of Sri Lanka must strive to uphold and protect. We leave you tonight with the words of B.R. Ambedkar, who is the former Minister of Law and Justice of India. If I find the Constitution being misused, I shall be the first to burn it. That is all we have for you on Law, Land and Liberty. If you had missed any of today's programs, you can always rewatch by catching us on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/otherthanenglish. Thank you for watching. Have a great night.